I left my husband a couple of weeks ago. He said I was being cruel and all about myself. I need advice on how to approach next steps. Divorce? Me 32M. Husband 32M. I had been with my partner for over 2.5 years, and we were married for about a year and a half. We met in the city. We were both living in the U.S. at the time, but about 6 months into our relationship, he faced expedited removal when re-entering the U.S. from a vacation and was deported back to his home country and banned from the U.S. That was obviously very traumatizing for both of us, and we both showed up for each other through that experience. I think it brought us closer, and I traveled back and forth to his home country in Asia to visit. We eventually decided to get married and work with an attorney to resolve his case and bring him back to the U.S. We got married last year and were long distance for a little over a year before I decided to leave the U.S. and spend time with him while we waited his visa to process. Looking back, I think it was a mistake to get married before living together, but nonetheless that was the decision we made under very stressful circumstances. This year that we have been together has been difficult. I have struggled complex PTSD for my entire adult life, and that has obviously shown up in our relationship. But I have been in therapy and doing a lot of work on myself. When my issues showed up in the relationship, I always tried to take accountability and work through them. I believe he has trauma as well, and I have been trying to get him to see a therapist for 1.5 years, and he had not until recently. The issue is that he never took accountability for his actions or behaviors that hurt me. Our sex life has not been good for quite some time, even though the rest of our relationship remained solid and contained a lot of joy and playfulness. In the beginning, he blamed me for our issues, saying it was because I was not neat enough and good enough at keeping my things in the apartment organized or washing my dishes quickly enough. This is something I have been actively working on, and I would say improved by about 80%. I have some moderate executive functioning difficulty and have been trying to overcome it. After this got better, he said he felt I was not independent enough. Well, I was living in a foreign country that I did not speak the language, so of course I depended on him quite a bit to get around, but I worked on this too and was able to learn enough to run errands and go about my routine without his help. Of course, our sex life didn't improve, and in fact his mood seemed to worsen. A few months ago I went through a lot of intensive EMDR, and it forever changed my own inner world and view of myself. I have been so happy, confident, and resolved, I would say 90% of my triggers. However, this seemed to make my relationship with my husband worse rather than better. He did finally start seeing a therapist recently that specializes in EMDR, and after the first couple sessions said a lot of really hurtful things to me. He said he identified that his pattern was that he dated people he felt were broken and needed to be fixed because it made him feel needed. And now that I am happy and independent, he doesn't feel needed. WTF, he had complained just a couple months previously that I wasn't independent enough. And he said that seeing me so happy actually makes him unhappy. What he was saying made a lot of sense. He has been avoiding me, and when I see him come home I can see that his energy just changes when he sees me. He took a 2-week trip with a friend without me during a time where we were supposed to be looking for a new apartment and he was supposed to be prepping for his US visa interview. We ended up having to move out of our apartment without a place lined up, and he was rejected at his visa interview. After all of this, I said I wasn't sure I wanted to commit to another chapter with him and I needed some space to think about things. We took a couple of days apart in separate Airbnbs, and then I texted and told him I wanted to leave to a nearby country that is more English-speaking and easier for me to navigate while I clear my head. He said he wanted to meet before I left to talk. I agreed. When he shows up, he was radiating negativity and he asked about our future. I said I did not feel we were really in the same spaces in our lives right now and not compatible to be together. I told him that I am feeling really good about myself for the first time and want to live a happy life. Not be in a relationship where we fight all the time and someone who thinks so little of me. He called me cruel and all about myself for not wanting to stay and work on our relationship. But to me, it just felt there was no foundation left. He didn't want to spend time together or even sleep in the same bedroom. We don't communicate well and there was no happiness left. I don't understand why he even wants to be in a relationship with me after the things he said. I just don't know how I could be in a relationship with someone who only got together with me because they felt I was broken. Yet, part of me feels guilty for not having patience and sticking with him while he works through his own therapy. Sigh. It feels like I made the right decision for me, but I feel bad for hurting him despite everything. The longer we are apart, the more guilty I feel. We are married and I need to figure out my next steps. Advice on how to approach things from here would be appreciated. Update. We are both married and living in Taiwan. Mutual consent divorce is very easy here. One-sided divorce is not. One party must prove fault of the other and it can take a while and get messy. Originally I moved here and we got married to start on his US visa after he was denied entry in 2022 and given a 5-year ban. He had lived in the US for 15 years, which is where we met. In December of last year, upon attending his visa interview, he was given an additional lifetime ban for misrepresentation. The only path for him to ever go the US again is for an immediate relative to prove extreme hardship. We separated 4 months ago. He denied my one attempt to reconcile with the condition he actually take accountability and work on his stuff. This week I texted him and we both agreed we do not wish to be together and have moved on. I politely asked for a divorce and he said he still wanted to remain married so he can get his US visa. There are still multiple years left in processing times for his various forms. Now, I understand his situation is difficult for him, but it is no longer my responsibility. If this was that important to him, he should have been a better husband. He is not letting this go. I believe I have enough evidence to divorce him under the law here and spoke to some attorneys. It would take at least 12 months for the process. How can I frame a conversation with him to get him to come to his senses that he is not getting a green card and allow for a mutual consent divorce? Edit. Thank you everyone for your very clear advice and support. I have decided to move forward with divorce and meet my attorney this week to get the process started. He was not a good partner. It is just completely absurd and unreasonable of him to ask anything of me, especially this. I am so over it and will be moving on with my life.